Association. And I want to introduce our guest this evening, Dr. Nicole Wanamaker, who is the Chief Veterinary Officer for New Brunswick and Manager of the Provincial Vet Services for the New Brunswick Department of Aquaculture, Agriculture, and Fisheries. So welcome, Dr. Wanamaker. And I want to thank you for reaching out to the NBEA to discuss with the horse community in New Brunswick the topic of disease preparedness, and specifically the need for a livestock premise ID. So welcome. We're glad to have you.
Thank you. Thank you, folks. This has been a topic that's been on everybody's mind, at least, maybe not necessarily for horse owners, but it's been a big disease focus on swine right now with African swine fever. And that got me thinking that maybe we should be preparing for other livestock as well. So that's why I reached out and wanted to see what the NBEA could do. And so tonight I've made a presentation with regards to the livestock premises identification program and number. I hope everybody can hear me okay. And also too as well, if anybody has any questions, please feel free to ask them, and we can have a question and answer period at the end. And I think Nancy mentioned that you could put them in the chat function of this presentation as well too. So we can definitely take questions, not a problem.
Yes, that's right. If people have questions on their mind as we go through and they don't want to interrupt, just type it into the chat, and at the end, we'll go through that list of questions with Nicole.
Okay, let's get started then. So next slide, please, Nancy. Thank you. So what is the livestock premises identification program and the number that goes with it? So here in New Brunswick, we have a program that links premises that have livestock and poultry to geographical locations in our province. And we like to have this program available to everyone for the purpose of responding to emergencies. So unlike other provinces, in New Brunswick, it is mandatory for poultry and swine commercial farms, as well as anybody who has a dairy farm shipping milk, and anyone who has a pig in their backyard who would like to have that pig butchered at the local provincial abattoir. Those premises require premise identification numbers. And so therefore, for everyone else in the province, horse owners included, it is only voluntary. So in relation to that, when I say about it being mandatory in other provinces, in Manitoba, for example, horse owners, it is mandatory for them to have a PID number or an LPID number when they have one horse, or for example, if there was one cow on their farm, they all would need to have it a mandatory registration. So next slide, Nancy. So more about the program here in New Brunswick. So it is a free program for everyone and anyone. So if you have, like I said, here in New Brunswick, just one horse or even one chicken, we'd like to encourage everyone to participate. And funny enough, as I was preparing for disease responses about a year ago, we were talking, a group of us, and we were looking at horses in different provinces and what people were looking to consider, for example, the classification. And here in New Brunswick, they are considered livestock, which is great. So it does protect horses under our New Brunswick Diseases of Animals Act, unlike some provinces and territories who don't recognize horses. So they would just recognize more food-producing animals. So I'm really happy that horses are considered livestock here in New Brunswick. Next slide. So how does the system work? So the system in New Brunswick here looks at parcels of land where livestock and poultry are grown, kept, or assembled together. And by assembled, I mean they can be at a sale barn. For example, there was one in Sussex. It could be at a stable, in your case, for example, as a horse owner. So it's just looking at where livestock are kept. And the application is actually really easy. It can be done online or printed and mailed, or even faxed. So there's instructions on the bottom of the form. And you can find the form at the website listed below. If you type in Google, like livestock animal premises for New Brunswick, and you'll see that from there, the link will come up as an application form on a PDF file. So that's one way that you can certainly really have a look at the form and fill it out. So next slide, please. It'll actually show you. So this right here is actually the 4 pages. So the printing is small, but I wanted to just show you an idea of what the form is. So it's not too intimidating. It can be filled out on the computer. There are instructions both at the beginning and at the end. And everywhere in blue is where you can fill it out online. And you can simply email it into an address below. So like I said, there's 4 fillable pages here, and it's really simple. And we're going to go through a couple of the key points on this form with you guys tonight. So next slide, please. So what I thought I would do is pull out on the application form specific things that you would need, and as well too, just some highlights. So for this form, you will supply your name and address. And if that is different than what you would want to have used on the form, you would need to provide emergency contacts. You also need to provide, which you would have, property identification numbers, PIDs, and specifically where livestock are located. So oftentimes you live at a house and you've got the barn on the same property. That would be a PID where there's livestock. Some people have just a stable with no house, for example. That would be a PID that I'd love to know about, because that's a stable, or that's where animals are kept. You can get your PID numbers for your property from Service New Brunswick Online or from your property tax form. So there's a list there. And so in section 3, I've got circled on the bottom of the slide, it says 3.0 livestock premises locations. That's where you'd put your PID, your property tax information, the civic address, the town, the province, the postal code, and then any landmarks that you're close to. So if you're close to a church, if there's a bridge close by, the name of a river, that often helps as well too. Up on the right-hand corner of the slide, it talks about livestock premises type. I'm hoping everybody can see that, but maybe not if there's some people like myself on there. But what I did is I did circle some key points there. So you could be considered a farm. There was also a barn or stable that was listed on there. And there was a third category called other, which is to specify. You could put on there a barn with 1 horse, for example. So there was different ways that you could classify your premise type. The next part would be in section 7.0, the species type. And for you guys, there would be just 1 box to fill out, unless you've got some chickens, for example, on your place. That would be good to fill. If you do have that pig, it would be nice to know as well. But for you guys, mainly it's probably going to be horses, ponies, donkeys, and mules. And that would be a check mark on a box located in 7.0 in that form as well. The other sections I did not include, for example, 4.0, 5.0 are all sub premises. So if there's a main premise and then you've got sub premises, that's all explained in the form. And that would just be simply filling out some PID numbers. So for example, if you had 2 barns, 2 different locations under the same owner, those would be like sub premises. Any questions on the form at all? Maybe we could stop here at the moment. They're just, like I said, I highlighted a couple of areas that I wanted to talk to you guys about tonight. So I pulled them out.
Okay.
Is there anything in the chat function, Nancy, or?
I can't see it while we're sharing the screen.
Oh, okay.
So
no.
That'll have to wait till the end.
Okay, fair enough.
Anyway, I have a question.
Sure, Dawn.
It's Dawn. Did you say that the emergency contact, did you say that only had to be filled out if the animals were on a different property from where you live?
No, your emergency contact would be as if it was different than your business contact information that says right on there. So in section 2.0,
Okay.
your emergency contacts, if it is different, if you wanted to assign a different person or have a different name and number from what your business contact is. Yeah.
Oh, okay, good. I just wanted to clarify that. Thank you.
Yeah, so it could be the same and you wouldn't fill that out.
Okay.
Okay. All right, next slide then, Nancy, please. So how does this LPID number system work? So once the form is completed that I showed you, it's sent to the Department Agriculture, Aquaculture, and Fisheries, and actually it's the livestock branch. So I actually work for the Animal Health Services branch, and in the livestock branch, which would be my next door neighbor, so to speak, they're the ones that own the program and would process your application. Once it's been processed, you get a lovely laminated wall card that you would put on your wall. And you would also get a wallet size card that would be kept with you if you want. And that would have your unique LPID number. So you get two reference points, I guess, for your program. Special things to note, which may or may not apply to you guys, I don't know. Sometimes there are pastures, what we call community pastures, for example, where cattle are kept. So I don't know if you have a community pasture, there would be really no house on it, nobody would live on it, but you would have animals congregated there. And that would be an important piece of property to list as well, so that we would know where there are animals located in the event of an emergency. So I just wanted to put that in there as sort of a special note, that it would be an important thing to consider if you do have some pasture around that's fenced in and you have a group of horses that are there for the summer, for example. It would be important to have that. Next slide, Nancy. So more about the LPID number. This was a key slide I made yesterday because I wanted to really show how it would work. The information you provide is kept confidential. And so in a crisis, such as a disease outbreak, only the PLD is what I would see on a map. So for example, what I did is I just took these as examples. So all the blue are locations of stables, for example, in New Brunswick. And I happened to get a disease outbreak that is very concerning at the red dot. So depending on the disease issue or what's going on, sometimes they'll look at officials like higher up than me, and for the federal government, for example, for CFIA, they'll consider a 3 to 5 kilometer radius from what they call a hotspot. So that's why I labeled that in red. So they'll draw a circle around the hotspot, and then they'll start picking out, okay, who's involved in this issue. And it won't be me to contact you. It would be our livestock branch that will reach out to you directly. So they're the ones that own the information, and they would be the ones to contact you. If you had any questions, I would give them my contact number, and then you would reach back out to me. But that's how it would work. I guess in the ideal world, maybe it would be good that my branch reached out, but that's okay. It is what it is. And so, because then you could talk to a veterinarian directly, maybe if there was a problem, but you still can at the end of the day, reach out. And like I said, it's just numbers on a map, but are numbers that are important to me. So I know who's involved and where we can help. So I don't know if there's any questions with that, but that's the example I kind of chose to show what it would look like. Okay, next slide, Nancy. So the benefits of having this LPID number. So overall, it allows for notification of livestock operations and owners about a disease. But then I thought of two other things, that it would help us in the preparation for an animal health emergency should one occur. So in the preparations, if I'm looking at that map, for example, I'll want to know, you know, who's going to be affected by this, you know, what are the facilities that I have to deal with around that area? How many trailers am I going to need to get in there to help look for animals and to move animals, things like that. And then with reducing the impact, again, it was to, you know, moving those people that are outside the radius so that the disease doesn't spread, or issuing permits. Sometimes I know for some federal diseases, they'll have to issue permits so that the disease doesn't spread and impact animals outside that yellow circle, for example, that 3 to 5 kilometer radius. So It's just to help to prepare, but also to help with impacting, help with the impact of the other operators in the area as well too. So those are kind of some things that I thought of as benefits for having the LPID number for you guys. We can, I know we're trying to prepare, and we try and prepare for all the responses that we can think of. And I know there'll be scenarios we can't prepare for, but I guess on the whole, if we can prepare as much as possible, I just think that would be a helpful thing to do. So let's do the next slide, Nancy. So for more information, you can contact a regional office near you. You can also call, that's a main number in Fredericton, the 453-2109. That's a number that's been linked with the application form. You can also go to GMB website and type in like agriculture, aquaculture, and fisheries, or livestock application. A couple of things that you can do to Google there, it should pick it up. The other way that you can go on to find even more information that is looked at a national level is the CFIA website. So there's a livestock identification and traceability site. And there you will see, you know, some things that may not apply to you because it's for cattle, it's for pigs, it's for poultry. But you never know, I guess, down the road when they do look at more identification of animals, you know, maybe horses are going to need to be microchipped more often in the future to move. You know, there might be different things to look at with identification and traceability. So for right now, it's looking at cattle, sheep. Let me think what else is on there. Bison, cervids, which are your farm deer, and goat are actually some other ones that they're looking at for identification and traceability. So horses aren't on there yet at the federal level, but I'm sure they will be. So next slide. So this is just, I guess, the end of my presentation. I hope it was clear. And I guess now if you have any questions, if I don't know the answer, I'll try and find it for you, but hopefully everything presented this evening kind of makes things a little bit more understandable, and I guess more important as to why I think it would be good for everybody with an animal to be on the program.
Right. Nicole, when you and I first spoke, you had mentioned, which I thought was interesting, you already have 92 people that are registered.
Yes.
Their property, which I thought was great. I mean, we roughly have 2,000 members in the NBEA. I'm told there's 15,000 horses in New Brunswick. And so you right now have 92 homeowners. This doesn't have to be commercial, right? It's just
Correct.
A house that's got a donkey or a horse behind its house.
Right.
Should be filling in this form. And right now you have 92 of them, which I thought was quite impressive. So really, I'd love to check back with you in about 30 days and see if we can try to increase that number and find out. And I thought, again, we've talked a lot about, obviously, disease is a big thing now and biosecurity, but you had mentioned also, just in case there's fire or flooding, that's another reason why we need to reach out to these people and get them, and let all those fires that have happened in BC and Alberta, and they've had to move livestock, or even for us in New Brunswick with flooding, that if you can tell people ahead of time something may be coming their way, I'd love to get the phone call to know it's happening. This is the reason why we need to be on this list.
Right. So make sure you put a cell number down or a number that you can be contacted at easily, right? So yeah. So again, if you're a business, like Dawn asked, if that business contact is different than an emergency contact, or list an emergency contact as well too, that would be great. So yeah, no, for sure. I think it's important. I know with the flooding that was in Fredericton area with the dairy cattle and a few other beef farms, that I'm not sure if the LPID number was used at that point, because I just think people were calling up people and talking. But you know, as owners, you know, get spread around the province, and some people are in isolation, like in local remote areas, especially up north, I'm thinking right now, just to know where they are, which is a great idea.
Yeah, for sure. Nancy, do you have any other questions?
Your presentation was beautifully clear, Nicole. There's not a single question in the chat. So
Okay.
people
Well, I
must
have
be-
another one. So, what kind of diseases could horse owners, like, I mean, we had some strangles and whatever in the past, but let's talk about something a little bit more serious where strangles is serious enough, but what comes to mind for you that would make us have a lockdown, or you'd have to be calling us up and saying, listen, something's in your area?
So yeah, so you guys with horses, it's kind of it's good because you don't have as many diseases to worry about. Let's put it that way.
Right.
So like on our disease list, we have like contagious equine metritis, which is, I remember testing for that in some mares that came across from the UK. They were kept in quarantine, but really like to involve other premises at that time, it would just be like a single farm that was placed under quarantine
Right.
while the horses were being observed and tested. Vesicular stomatitis, which is another disease which we don't have here, can affect horses. I'm trying to think of some other ones that are on the federal disease list. I mean, it's really, there's not a lot that are there. I mean, Venezuelan equine encephalomyelitis, it's the VEE, which we vaccinate for WEE and EEE, triple E, but that's on the list of federal diseases. So it's not going to be, I'm hoping, it's not going to be a major disease outbreak of something. In saying that though, it would be nice for New Brunswick to have a list of diseases. So right now we have no list of diseases that are at least notifiable. That, for example, your strangles issue, it was something that can be reported or not reported. So I guess in the ideal world, I'm going to throw it out there now. New Brunswick, I would like to see a provincial list. So we have a federal list that federal government has. We as veterinarians in the province have to follow a federal list, but it would be nice if we had a provincial list like other provinces
Right.
have provincial diseases. I'm thinking of BC and Saskatchewan have wonderful disease lists provincially. You can go online and check those out. And a lot of them are just diseases that are listed. So the consequence, so to speak, if I can say that, is just to notify the province that it's around, which is kind of what I'd like to know, what's going on in my backyard, right? So eventually you could protect horses or, animals in general. So that's kind of something I'd like to work towards. But right now, if we can start like with you guys with your LPID numbers, I think that's a great start to prepare.
Well, I think like anything, what's going on in the world right now, Dr. Wanamaker, is that biosecurity and just keeping our herd as healthy as possible with doing good vaccines and doing your Coggins tests and trying to practice, just good herd health, and us having these conversations and bringing it to people's attentions about risk management. And in case something does happen, we should have some comfort to know that there's something in our province that we're trying to talk about it, like we're talking about this evening, and trying to find out where all those horses are in New Brunswick and try to keep our membership informed as much as possible. And we're all trying to stay healthy right now with the COVID and the pandemic, and we're trying to keep our herd as safe as possible and healthy as possible as well. So we plan on reminding all of our members. This is going to be taped and it's going to be on our website as well for them to pull up, and we'll send that link to all of our members as well and encourage them. And I will follow up with you in the hope of that number of 92 can be increasing, and we'll have a better idea of how many horses or where horses are located in the province for sure.
Exactly. No, I think it's great. And the 92, I must commend whoever they are right now. I think it's wonderful. And yeah, the more we can get on, I think the better.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. Well, if there's no other questions, I want to thank everyone for tuning in with us this evening. And Dr. Wanamaker, thank you for your time. And please, with any other horse issues going on in New Brunswick, please feel free to reach out to the NBEA, and we'll share with our membership as much as possible.
That's great. I really appreciate that contact and that link, because it's good to get the word out if something comes through in our provincial lab, or, if we hear it elsewhere, it's good to know.
Right. That's great.
Yeah.
All right. Great. Thank
All
you
right.
everyone for tuning in. Good
Thank
night.
you. Merry Christmas, everyone. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.